Welcome to another episode of Enchiridion. We have Siddharth Shetty with us. He's the Managing Counsel India for BP and Castrol. Welcome, Siddharth.
Thank you, Jaideep. Thank you for having me here for this edition of Enchiridion. And it's a pleasure to be here having a conversation with you.
Thanks, Siddharth. So let's start by talking about how your career journey has been. The audience would really be interested to know how you've shaped your career.
Well, that's an interesting start to a conversation. On the career journey, after being fed on a diet of Hindi movies in the 70s and 80s, the beginning of my career journey might sound a bit cliched. So I'm the boy from Bangalore, not so small a town, but who grew up in Bangalore, completed my education in Bangalore and moved to Bombay for a career. So came to Bombay with a few thousand something in my pocket and then started my career in Bombay. So coming out of law school, I never thought of, being a part of the corporate world. So that was not where the plan was to be. And once I came out of law school, I had a brief stint in private practice. And then, as a matter of fact, the corporate journey began with SR Group. In fact, the then General Counsel of SR Group, he actually sold the idea of a corporate counsel to me, and I had my own reservations of having a career in a corporate firm, rather a corporate house. And but he sold the job to me, and here I am, nearly 24 years later. Looking back, I have no regrets about the move that I made back then. It's been an interesting journey. It's a different kettle of fish compared to what one would do in private practice. It's a completely different role. Pretty interesting in the sense that you're inside the business house and creating solutions for the business house, rather than being a consultant and the legal advisor advising on transactions from the outside. And I think both have its own charm and challenges, and but this one is a little different. So after having joined, SR, I had a great few years with SR Group, doing different kinds of work within the group, but mostly focused on oil and gas, because a few years after I joined SR, I was transferred to Jamnagar, as in employees were part of SR Oil. As I was the designated lawyer for SR Oil, transferred to Jamnagar, myself and a couple of other lawyers who chose not to do that journey to Jamnagar, but I was one of those who did the journey to Jamnagar, and that was a turning point for my career in oil and gas, because after that, for nearly 2 decades now, I've been an energy lawyer. I spent, after SR, I spent 10 years with PG, formerly British Gas, in different roles in, most of it in India, Southeast Asia, and Singapore and China. Then I did a stint in Ahmedabad with the PG subsidiary, then subsidiary, which is Gujarat Gas Limited, as Director of Legal and Governance. BG hived off its stake in Gujarat Gas, and then I, was part of that transaction. Basically, I worked myself out of a job in Gujarat Gas, essentially, but came back into BG Group. And then I joined the Castrol opportunity came up, I joined BP with Castrol India as managing counsel for Castrol, essentially a general counsel role. And well, now 9 years hence, I'm responsible for all of BP's businesses in India as a managing counsel for BP in India. So that sums up my career, corporate career of 24 years.
Siddharth, thank you so much. And I'm so delighted to see that you brought out a Bollywood analogy. So we'll try and pepper the conversation with a little bit of that. Let's talk about what is your broad approach and philosophy to the subject of governance, risk, and compliance?
So governance, risk, and compliance is a hot topic now, and over the years it's been something that's been very close to my heart. As lawyer, it's the old adage which goes of prevention is better than cure, and so I'm been a huge kind of ambassador, I mean, for myself, so for GRC. And through my various roles in different organizations. And it's been a long journey. And one lesson from that I've learned, and also I can draw an analogy to what we have in the oil and gas industry as a part of a very strong safety culture that comes in, given the amount of risk that there are in the operations, especially the upstream operations, where you're, drilling in rather hazardous locations, and then the activity itself is so the safety culture is pretty strong. And having spent those 2 decades in the oil and gas industry, I've come to realize that how the safety culture has been built over the years, and it's a constant, kind of drill that goes on day after day, meeting after meeting. So, and for several years now, every, meeting, which initially was a bit of a, for someone coming in from outside of the industry, when every meeting starts with a kind of a safety moment, it tells you something. It's a reminder for you about how important safety is. That every meeting begins with a safety moment, and taking a leap out of that practice. More in the recent years, we have now begun having our 𝗕𝗫𝗍 moment, which includes, ethics and compliance, but also the wider compliance as part of that thing. While governance, is kind of thrown from the top, the risk is something that you identify to manage your, kind of businesses. One would categorize risk broadly into, strategic, operational, and then there are compliance and controls. But safety and operations and compliance and control. So, and I'll now focus on the compliance and controls bit, because the compliance and controls element of the risk also affects your strategy and operations, because if your compliance is essentially licensed to operate, and if you're non-compliant, it can, in several jurisdictions, it could potentially impact your license to operate, which is a direct impact on your ability to run the business. So I think, like safety, I think compliance culture within organizations is the way to go, and so that one doesn't have to be reminded day after day of compliance. It's not having to go on like a policeman, or back in the days of the old school teacher, walk around and rap people on the knuckle for not having complied with a particular task, but it kind of becomes an inherent part of your culture to comply with the applicable laws. And well, organizations such as yours, Jaideep, have really helped with that to kind of imbibe that culture in the sense that you have an automated system. So it kind of becomes there are prompts that come up on your computer. There are reminders of laws that are applicable, changes to legislations, and what needs to be done. So there's a bit of awareness that is created, that coaching and all of that which goes along with it. And alongside, well, you make compliance part of your performance criteria. And when you're evaluating individuals for their performance at the end of the year, your annual performance appraisal, I mean, you might be a star in what you do in terms of domain expertise or subject matter expert. If in your area of operations, if you seem to have not complied with what you're required to do, be it code of conduct or which also relates to compliance with the laws and regulations, people do get docked for not having or for having contravened the code of conduct or not having complied with the relevant rules and regulations. And because it directly impacts the organization in terms of potential exposure, liability, and license to operate, like I said previously. So that's where I am. I mean, sorry, probably a long-winded answer for a question that you asked, but that would be...
No, not at all. In fact, these are the kind of insights the audience would love to hear. So I'll add on to, or not probably add on, I have a corollary question to what you mentioned about linking the performance and compliances with your key result areas or annual performance. I'm sure apart from this initiative, there are a few other initiatives you would have rolled out to strengthen the GRC within the organization. What were some of the challenges that you faced, and what were the innovative solutions that you deployed to overcome those challenges?
So the challenges are atypical, and like in the rest of the way we go about things in the life. I mean, to take another analogy from our day-to-day lives, about the way we go about following the traffic rules. I mean, some of your audience may have heard me give this example in other forums, but it's that clearly demonstrates the culture that we have for compliance, where you and I will see on our roads where the traffic light is red, but if there's no oncoming traffic, people will go past that red light just because there's no oncoming traffic, and that's a clear contravention of the traffic rules. And but if you sometimes, if you stop at the red light, you'll have people who are honking behind you to get out of their way. So I think that's what it's about, doing the right thing when no one is looking, is part of that culture, which again comes back to it's even the traffic example that I'm giving you relates back to the safety culture that we have in our organization. So when you're talking about challenges, here again, I think the tendency to find the easy way out is always there, and compliance is somehow, I think it's changing, but I have to say a few years ago, it used to be, people used to view compliance as more of a burden, something to tick the box with, and all of that. And more of a, um, a hurdle to cross rather than it's something that's good to do. And I have to say, compliance is good business, really, because if for management teams, for people who running the companies, people sitting in the boardrooms, and I can say that as a general counsel of listed company, that the board is really looking at the general counsel and the executive team to actually give them the assurance that the company is, kind of compliant in all aspects of running the business. And I think that assurance is really essential. And when you're looking at it from, whatever other strategies that might be devised in boardrooms and, on other cases within the company. But compliance is, pretty much forms a foundation of any company's success going forward, because it can, if the foundations that are built on compliance, if they are not strong enough, the entire, the greatest of strategies and greatest of plans could, all come crashing down because you are non-compliant with the way you run your business.
All right, Siddharth, thank you. I love your analogies that you're dishing out, and maybe we'll talk more about that. But let's get closer to how you keep yourself abreast of all of these developments. I mean, we are literally living the VUCA. Things have become hyper dynamic, and one has to be prepared to handle the day rather than the quarter or the year. How do you keep yourself updated about the subject?
Well, it's interesting that you asked me the question, Jaideep, but I'm relying very heavily on you to keep me informed about the changes. Yeah, like I said, that's one of the biggest challenges that we have in a rapidly changing environment, regulatory environment, where our teams have to constantly be on their toes and keep researching about changes. But certainly organizations such as yours, service providers, Legatrix too, is certainly an important part of that whole compliance journey for us, to keep us updated on the changes that happen. Otherwise, it's pretty much in the present day world where we are looking to do more with fewer people and resources. I think technology is what is going to help us going forward. And when I mean, say, technology, we're looking at tools such as yours, as Legatrix, to help us keep abreast with the changing laws and the environment.
Thank you so much. I hope we are doing our bit. But let's talk about, what do you do when you're not busy with work? How do you rejuvenate yourself?
Well, so reading is a habit that I have and that keeps me occupied, but sometimes reading becomes difficult after having spent long hours reading various notes and having spent time in front of a computer. So that's more of a strain. But I mean, on a daily basis, you probably look for other. I love solving puzzles, doing the crossword, and that's one of the things I like doing, or play a game of Scrabble with my kids at home. Or otherwise, I love traveling, and by traveling, I love traveling by road. So I'm a passionate motorist, if I can call that, both in terms of driving and I when I have the time of like riding my motorbike as well. So that's something that I really enjoy doing. And I do love a bit of theatre. Do like to watch a good play whenever I can. So that's keeps me otherwise occupied.
Thank you, Siddharth.
And I'm not in office and earning my daily bread.
So, have you taken any biking trips?
It's been a while. I've been looking forward to doing one. I think in the last couple of years with the pandemic, I think that wasn't helpful. But the one memorable one I have is the one that I did in Ladakh a few years ago on a motorbike, and that was a fascinating experience.
Yeah, that seems to be like a very favorite route for everyone, and everyone seems to enjoy that. So we'll talk more about that. But Siddharth, before we let you go, do you have a message for the young professionals or the community at large?
Well, I think the message is cliched. It's something that was told to me when I was young. There's no shortcut to success, and likewise, no shortcut when it comes to compliance as well. It's I think we need to make sure that, and compliance is the cost of repeating myself. I have to say compliance is good business, and I think we should be mindful that it can take away, being non-compliant can take away our license to operate and bring about huge liabilities and losses to companies which are otherwise, making profits and successful in what they do. And also for young professionals, I think the other message is, it's if I have to, kind of pull out something to say from my own experience, from my journey is constantly, get yourself out of your comfort zone and push yourself out. It just things opens up horizons. So moving out of the comfort zone, if there is a mantra to be said, that would be the one that I would pick to pass on for young professionals coming into any career for that matter, but then also the young lawyers coming into it.
So that, thank you so much. I think that is very good advice. There are no shortcuts to compliance. And it was a very engaging conversation, Siddharth. And I hope for many more such conversations. And to pick on your Bollywood analogy, as they say, 𝗕𝗦𝗃 𝗵𝗵𝗃. Thank you so much for joining us, Siddharth. Have a great day ahead. See you in the next episode. Thanks.
Thank you, Jaideep. Thank you for having me. And it was a pleasure chatting with you.